My therapist just ghosted me, y'all. And when I tell you that is a whole roller coaster in itself, it is a whole roller coaster in itself. So, in this video, I want to share with you guys what exactly to do if your therapist ghosts you. So, you guys sit back, relax, and we're going to talk about it right now. What's going on, y'all? My name is Terrence, Stewart, licensed clinical social worker in the state of Texas and California, and I'm your men's mental health expert. Now, recently, if you guys check out my other videos, I've been going through this journey trying to find a therapist. I found a therapist, been in therapy, just working out some of my own personal things. And, me being the therapist, I always give the perspective of like me being a therapist, but then also, me sitting on the other side of the table, which is like me being the client. And recently, the therapist I found recently ghosted me. So I'm gonna share with you guys what exactly happened first, right? So I was traveling to California and there's a time difference and all that. So when I talked to my therapist, I let her know like, hey, I can't meet in person. I want to meet at this time. And if we can meet at a regular time, I guess it's a 2-hour difference between Houston and Los Angeles. So she's like, okay, cool. So she sent me the link the day before. So I hop on. It was like I usually have my therapy sessions on like a Thursday, so I hopped on Thursday morning, and she wasn't on the call. It was like 5 minutes passed by, 10 minutes passed by, and I was like, okay, like what's going on here? Like, you know what I mean? So automatically, if you guys see my other videos, I automatically go into like, okay, what's going on? I'm kind of like freaking out, getting a little anxious a little bit. At like usually like even for my own therapy, my own clients, usually around that 10-15 minute mark, I'll make a phone call, I'll text like, hey, like, is everything okay? Are we still meeting or whatever it is? So around that, between that 10-15 minute mark, I gave her a call. I sent her a text and I gave her a call and I didn't get any answer, right? So I'm like, okay. So I just kind of left the video open. I started doing some other work and stuff like that. And then, I noticed it was like 40 minutes past, and I was like, okay, I guess we're not meeting today. I guess we're not meeting today. All right. So what ended up happening was I hopped off the call. 2 days later, I, shot her another email. I was like, hey, like, I know we miss each other. Are we still on? X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, okay. Hopefully, via email, because I called and I texted and I sent the email. And then it was about Monday-ish. I realized I didn't get a response by then. So by that time, I'm like, okay, well, one or two things gonna happen right now. Either I'm trying to find a new therapist, or my therapist, hopefully she's okay. Like, hopefully she's okay, because anything could have happened. By that Tuesday, I was kind of freaking out myself just for her sake, because I was like, I wonder if she like passed away or something. Like, God forbid, I hope she's okay. So that Tuesday, I was looking on like missing persons on like all the websites and stuff, and I didn't see her name pop up, and I was like, okay, well, yeah, so something obviously happened, right? Automatically for me, this is where my all or nothing thinking came in. If you guys don't know what all or nothing thinking is, it's a cognitive distortion you have. Some may refer to it as black or white thinking. It's either this way or that way. So this is where my all or nothing thinking came in. I really thought I did something wrong for her to ghost me. After having this process of, okay, well, we're not meeting today, hope she's okay, I was like, okay, well, how did our last session go to where, she don't want to see me anymore, right? So that Wednesday or so, I'm like, okay, Tuesday, I'm like, okay, looking and searching to see, she's okay. Wednesday comes along and I'm like, okay, well, maybe I need to find a therapist, because we're supposed to be meeting tomorrow, which is usually our Thursday appointments, right? So what I did, I didn't actually reach out to find another therapist. I kind of took it to God and just prayed on it a bit. And I was like, I hope she's okay. I hope I didn't do anything wrong. Again, I'm backtracking the last session. Like, what did we talk about? And was it too heavy for her? And like, did I say too much? And I'm like, what, like, why isn't she contacting me? Right? I sent the text, called, and I sent the email and I didn't get anything back. So I believe the next Thursday comes along and I'm like, obviously, I don't think we're meeting, because, we didn't meet last time. And granted, I think that day I was going to reschedule anyway, because I had something to do. But in my head, I'm like, okay, either if we meet or we don't meet, either she thinks we're meeting or we're not meeting. In my head, we're not meeting. You know what I mean? So that Thursday passed, and I'm kind of sitting here. I'm like, okay, cool. So one of the things I had to kick in for me, I was like, well, I always have to remember, like, therapy isn't like it's not the holy grail of like healing. You know what I mean? It is a step towards the right direction. It's a resource towards your healing journey. You know, there's also beliefs that I have, you know, as far as like a God-fearing man, and also like using resources. Like you can't, you know, I can't just sit here and be like, okay, well, I'm gonna go on a spiral because my therapist is not talking to me, right? I have to use other means. I have to use my coping skills. I actually have to use the things that I learned in therapy. You know what I mean? Although we're not meeting, right? So, you know, in addition to like trying not to take it personally and try not to, you know, feel as if I did something wrong, I also had to figure out like, okay, what can I do now, right? What can I do now? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna use my coping skills. I'm gonna just use the things I learned in therapy. One of the things, you know, if your therapist ever ghosts you, something I want to mention now is, you know, you really have to make a decision whether or not you want to stay with that therapist too. You know, for me, I felt like, you know, I kind of just banked on, okay, something must have went terribly wrong. And, you know, that's why she's not contacting me. So that's one thing is like, if you feel like you can no longer work with this therapist, if they reach back out to you, then, you know, you don't want to have any counter-transference or no ill will against your therapist. So, you know, if you ever have a therapist ghost you, then you probably might want to try to find a new therapist if that's how you feel. You know, in my case, I was like, okay, I'm gonna sit back and I'm a, you know, after thinking about it, challenging my all or nothing thing, I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna really think about whether or not I want to talk to this therapist again. So the next week comes along and I'm like, okay, well, I felt obligated to reach out, but I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna reach out because I don't know. I guess I was just kind of waiting for her because obviously something may have happened, right? So she hits me like a couple of days later, I believe that following Monday, and was like, hey, my apologies, you know, the day we were supposed to meet, her cousin and like somebody else died in her family, like back to like on that same morning, that same day, back to back, like that night and that morning. And I was like, dang, first of all, my condolences, because that's crazy to have two people die like back to back like that. So she was kind of explaining to me that she had a system set up to where like she had somebody like, I guess, email everybody like, hey, we got to cancel our appointments and da da da. For some reason, me and a couple of other clients didn't get that email. So automatically, I'm okay, cool. Like, you know, I got to understand too, like me being a therapist myself, giving grace to my therapist, you know, like she had a loss, she had something tragic going on. If I was in her position, I would have for sure did the same thing. Like, I'm not meeting with you after like I've had 2 back-to-back deaths. Like, I'm not talking to anybody. You know, I'm canceling all appointments moving forward. You know, so most definitely understood where she was coming from. Most definitely understood that, you know, not like, how are you supposed to do therapy and like you have these back-to-back deaths? I think a lot of folks don't realize, and this is something that I had to realize even going through this process, is like, you know, therapists are human people as well too. Like, things happen, you know, just because things happen to us don't mean we always know how to handle it. And that doesn't also mean like, you know, we can show up for other people, especially when things happen to us. So, you know, I sat back and I was okay, cool. She was like, hey, like, we're open to meet on this day, continue, like we can do that. My apologies. I said, okay, cool, done. So as of now, we're back on track. You know, I actually met with her last Thursday, had a really great session. And, you know, we talked about a lot of great things. And, you know, she kind of shared with me a little bit more about what was going on with her. And, you know, I just appreciate that, just that process in that moment, because, you know, for me, one thing I'm learning is to not to be so impulsive and not to like jump to conclusions. And I feel like in this moment, I had those all or nothing thinkings and those cognitive distortions, but I'm kind of proud of myself to be able to navigate that a bit. You know what I mean? So for me, and, you know, if you guys experience the same thing, you know, if a therapist ghosts you, you know, if you feel like you can still work with that therapist after they come back, most definitely still work with them. If you feel like you can't, most definitely try to find somebody else, because, you know, The advantage that I have is like I understand because I do this for a living as well too. But you may not have that understanding, which is perfectly fine. Like you don't want to be with somebody that is always, therapist is always late or ghosting you or, showing up for sessions or missing sessions. Like that's totally inappropriate. But in this situation when it's like emergency, like you had 2 deaths back to back, that's crazy. That is crazy to me. So I appreciate y'all for watching this video. I appreciate y'all for tapping in. Make sure you guys, if you guys ever have a therapist ghost you, I hope this was helpful and just trying to understand patience and learning those things. And also too, just trying to figure out what's best for you. Again, my name is Terrence Stewart, licensed clinical social worker, state of Texas and California, and I'm your men's mental health expert. Y'all take care. Peace.